Hi there, folks. So back again for another video. In this one, I thought I would talk a little bit about terrain and setting up a sort of battlefield, and also the kind of challenge stuff that I've been doing over the last month when it comes to building some terrain for fantasy war games and that kind of thing. So one of the things I've always found is that I always have loads of terrain for doing sci-fi games, but very little stuff for fantasy games. And so when some dude on YouTube, also known as Sundancer, over on Tabletop, decided to challenge me to actually build some terrain, to build an actual table, I thought this would be a pretty good excuse to do that. So this is me looking at my little collection of fantasy stuff that I'm going to use for Dark Age gaming, but also for Lord of the Rings. As you can see, I've got a couple of miniatures there from Lord of the Rings, looking pretty badass. Basically showing that you can bring a whole host of things together using sort of bits and pieces that you've picked up, as well as proper big plastic kits as well. You'll have to forgive the echo if there's a little bit of an echo, because I'm doing this in my little dining room where we normally play some games. So yeah, I'll just go through it all. So the biggest things first off. Cool. So these fields, it's the traditional way of making a lot of wargaming fields. It is a doormat that has been cut up and turned into smaller segments so that you can make little fields out of it. So in this sort of setting, I kind of thought that this might be a little outpost in the fields before the city of Minas Tirith, perhaps. You see some ruins over there. And so this might be a little kind of like farming system that has been set up to sort of feed the city and the men and the soldiers, and it's being attacked perhaps by the forces of Mordor. So yeah, fields, nice easy one, that one. Just doormats that have been cut up and cut shape, and then the only thing you need to do to really turn them into proper fields is to have things like these. So I got some fences. I'll probably end up having to get another pack of these, I think. So these are a set of fences from Renedra, so they're a plastic set. Nice and easy to paint. You get quite a few of them in the pack. You get some sort of longer fence sections, as you can see there, alongside these, which are kind of like normal gates. They do have these little bases on the bottom, as you can see there. Kind of, hopefully. There we go, yeah. Kind of see that. They get little bases, which kind of mean that they stand up, but they would probably do better if they were stuck on some sort of lollipop sticks or something. That would probably help out quite a lot, I think. Or tongue depressors, I think, is the other thing that's been mentioned, as they would be very handy for those. So you put a couple of them around a field, around a doormat, and suddenly it turns into a little bit of a field that's been sort of blocked off. As you can see, I don't quite have enough fences to do that, but I think it still looks quite cool. What should we look at next? I think we'll stick with Renedra then. Oops, shaky cam. And we'll look at some of the houses. So these are some of the housing kits that Renedra do. The roofs come off, as you can see there. They're just basic plastic ones, and you stick the sides together, get some paint on them, do a little bit of a wash, as I've done here, and Bob's your uncle, fanny's your aunt. They're basically done. Same goes for the thatch top. I think I could maybe brighten these up a little bit with some additional work potentially. But I actually think this one worked quite nicely. So this one was the sort of the wattle and daub one that has some additional sort of white coating on the outside, which I was like working on. And that's actually done with the sponge work. I think it actually came out quite nicely, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think I may be getting a few more of those ones just to give a little bit of lightness to this. What was next? I also got another one of these. So this was the Viking one. So this one's more for Dark Age gaming, but I think it still does the job quite nicely. Just a lot of dry brushing and things like that. One of the things that I have done with these is, and I probably will go back over these with another dry brush, is I dry brushed on sort of like a yellow, like a straw yellow, and then did the Devil and Mud over the top, but I also worked in some Chthonian camo shade so that it kind of works like some of it's got a little bit of moss in it and stuff. As I say, I think it might be interesting just giving these another dry brush, just to kind of brighten them up a little bit more. But I think they still work as buildings on the tabletop. The other thing that I was thinking of is potentially revisiting these with contrast paints, perhaps, because contrast paints might work really nicely to pull out the details without making them feel so dark. Because obviously these have been dry brushed over with, dry brushed over black. So it keeps the details in there and gives you the shades, but it also means that they're very dark in terms of the final look. There's a couple of other pieces on here. So the other stuff that I've done for the actual terrain challenge for the month. So I did the buildings, I did the fields, I did the fences. And then the other thing I did was I built these little tiny like forest sections that I've made out of foam. So these were made not with the best foam, from some stuff from Hobbycraft. And I went at them with a hot wire cutter, covered them in a texture paint, put a little bit of the flock on top, although I might just flock the entire of the top, to be honest, to kind of match the green mat I've got here. Put in some plastic trees that I got off Amazon that were very cheap. And I think they actually work quite nicely next to the models. So one of the things I was really worried about was that the trees might look too small, and obviously it would be nice to have slightly taller ones, I think. But because of the base that's been worked in there, I don't think they look massively out of place. So yeah, that's just my kind of little wood. So I did that one there. I've got that one over there. So I've got another one, little tiny sort of corner section again. I think that came out quite nicely. And then I have two more. So I've got this one here and this one on the end, which is a slightly larger piece that I wanted to work on. And it needs a little bit of touching up here and there, but I think it works out quite nicely. I can maybe add a little bit of texture paint to the sides just to make it feel so that it's not so chocolate brown, I guess. But I think it works quite nicely as a little kind of set of trees. And obviously you'd set the miniatures up in the middle, and then you count them as being in the forest depending on what game you're playing. There's a couple of other bits that I didn't do for the month, but are integral to my little kind of collection. So years ago, I made these. So these are my sponge rocks. So these are a sponge that you might get for washing your car or something like that. And you basically pick and pluck at it, and then spray it black, do some dry brushing, mount it on a cardboard base. These ones are just mounted on a cereal pack, and that gives you some nice little rocky outcrops. Again, you could go brighter with these, and you could obviously do something with the base, maybe make it all flocked perhaps, to give the look of a proper rock rather than it being something a little bit more volcanic perhaps that you might see with this one. But yeah, so that's the rocks. I've got a couple of those. There's just two of them here on this table. I did work on some other terrain. So with the Battle of Osgiliath set, you obviously got these really nice pieces. So these are my Osgiliath ruins. They were done by spraying them all black. Was it black? Yeah, it was spraying them all black and then dry brushing them, or over brushing them, to be honest. Then all of them got coated in Nuln oil, and the Chthonian camera showed in places to give the look of moss and stuff, and then just dry brushed again to bring the white back, and then a little bit of texture with the leaves and stuff, so it looks like they actually are ruins. And I think I got the white of Minas Tirith looking pretty good with these, or Osgiliath anyway, with not too much effort actually. They are very interesting to build, and they're a nice little modular set. I have done some pieces in the past, so these are some of the old Runes of Middle-earth pieces that you would have got with the starter sets. So these ones were just, again, dry brushed and then washed, but obviously they've not been dry brushed again after the fact, they've just kind of been left. So I could bring them up to match them, but I still think they're quite nice. So I've got a couple of those pieces lying around for Lord of the Rings. I'm really proud of the statue. I think the statue came out really nicely. Again, with a little tiny base with some leaves and stuff on it, but otherwise a little statue, so a good central piece there. And then there are these fallen sections as well that I've done. So yeah, so I've got a couple of them to use in games. And again, they've just been dry brushed. I really like doing that one, especially with the leaves in the centre there, as if they collected on the statue. But yeah, so yeah, a month of making terrain and doing other things, but a month of making terrain to fill an entire board worth of stuff for skirmish games. I've now got 4 fields. Might not necessarily need 4 fields. This is obviously a little bit bigger than 4x4, but I've now actually got a tabletop full of terrain that I can actually play on at home, and it's all painted. Even if I would do some improvements here and there on it, I think it still works quite nicely. So yeah, 4 big ruins from Osgiliath, loads of the ruins in Middle-earth terrain that can be dotted in and around, the 4 fields, the fences, the huts and the buildings that are going to get maybe a lick of paint to bring them up. Got the forests, the rocks. I think the only thing I'm really missing is having a few more scatter pieces, to be honest, because I think a lot of this stuff helps to give cover and interest and tell a story. And as I say, it could be used to create something that was a small tabletop or something a little bit bigger. So yeah, in terms of spending a month building terrain and adding it to a collection, I think I've done pretty well, but I'm sure you folks will let me know in the comments below. And if you've got any tips for doing things like the forest in a little bit of a different way or something, please do say so in the comments. But yeah, a little kind of way to cap off the month. That also means that I'm probably going to be thinking about something entirely different for the month of October when I do more terrain building. Probably going to focus on something sci-fi, I think, so I can get sort of pipes and girders and all that kind of thing together. But if I come up with any more ideas for fantasy terrain, like maybe some more forests and things, I think that could be kind of cool. I still quite like these. I just need to make sure I find some foam that's a little easier to work with, I think. But yeah, nice little trees. Right, yeah, that's my little table. That's my jaunt into the world of terrain making. I'll be back with another video very soon. Probably going to be talking a little bit about Combat Patrol potentially, and the fun I've been having with that. But also I've got some other ideas for the old world. We'll see what happens with the Nova releases later this week. That might change my tact on where I go with my videos, but there we go. Yeah, I hope this is a fun little look at the kind of terrain you can build and some tips and tricks for doing it, and the kind of tables you might want to bring together. I love my classic old Citadel green mat. Bloody lovely. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff down below. You can get involved in the comments, and I love chatting with you folks. Let me know what kind of terrain you've built for your tables. If you've got any tips for lightening up some of the terrain, please let me know. And yeah, I'll be back with another video very soon. And yeah, bye for now.